I'm here too. Hi.
Whoa. Hey everybody, welcome to DnDTime Brews. I'm Jeremy. This
I'm
is
Pete.
Pete.
I'm frazzled.
I was gonna,
Oh, thank you. Please do it.
I'll-
I'm sorry I messed it up.
this is Interrupter Pete.
That's what they call me.
And welcome to Welcome to DnDTime Brews, a fun little show where Pete, myself, and you, the chat, all make cool stuff. We make cool stuff. And usually it's related to Dungeons and Dragons all the time, which is more than usual. Whatever. How you doing, Pete?
I'm doing good.
Pete, what delicious brew do you have this evening?
Oh, I have not cracked it open, but I do have a delicious brew. I have here in honor of the monster that we created last time, and that we're doing an adventure based around it, the Shipyard Pumpkinhead, the most classic of all pumpkin beers. I even got the cinnamon rim on my glass. I'm very fancy tonight. Went all out. Jeremy, how was your...
Sailor Jerry's rum with Diet Coke. Actually, it might be regular Coke.
I mean, Jeremy,
Hello!
I respect that you know what you like.
My beloved chat. Hello, Diadems. Hello, Farfel. Hello, Sheba and Lance, and everyone else who may be hanging out, lurking around. I'm really excited for today. It's gonna be a fun little endeavor. We usually don't do adventures so often on Brews. This is gonna be a fun little kind of detour. I imagine it's gonna end up something kind of like Behind the Screens, which
it's like a behind the screen with both of us.
Exactly.
I'm behind the screen today as well. And we're going to be kind of building our adventure using some of the monsters that we made last time.
Yeah, we made some really cool monsters 2 weeks ago now, it was. Of course, everything is Halloween themed per the season. So, yeah, we're going to scroll down. We're going to look at these monsters. I guess we'll talk through where they ended up last week, right? And what they really are. And then we can start building the adventure. I mean, the whole point is kind of to highlight these creatures. It should be a lot of fun. So, without further ado, Peter, could you explain to our beloved audience what the first creature that was created last week is? Or 2 weeks ago?
The first creature that was created last week, or 2 weeks ago, was...
Fuck you,
that was the Pump King. I'm now focused. I finished doing what I was doing, so I'm 100% locked in now. I had to just doing some important stuff to make the Pump King possible. And what the Pump King is
planting some seeds?
I was planting some seeds. And well, the Pump King is a giant pumpkin, as you probably guessed. It's a huge, chaotic, evil pumpkin monster. It's got cool moves. It's got the false appearance, so it can just look like a huge pumpkin. But it also has, vines that can whip out and grab people and move them around. It eats people inside of it. It has a very cool... it traps people inside of it, and then they just are forced to take the fire damage that of the fire that burns inside of its jack-o'-lantern-like body, and then it can exhale that fire, and things like that. It's a cool little monster.
Yeah, I really like it. We gave it some legendary action, so it can dash around like most big bad monsters have. They kind of some sort of mobility, so it can run around on its big vine legs. It has a horrifying soul scream that we talked about, which is neat. And, of course, it can just make a vine whip because, what's his attack?
Yeah, it's his basic move, as he hits people with his big giant vines.
But yeah, super rad. It should actually be Vine Lash, Pete.
Oh, yes. I was thinking of Bulbasaur.
He makes one Vine Lash attack, and the ability is called Vine Whip. We'll call it that. It's a legendary action. We can do that. We can do that crap. But yeah, Pumpkin, really fairly straightforward creature, but pretty cool. I really liked, one of the things I really dug about this guy is that we gave it the combination bite swallow deal that can kind of combine with its lashing vine, which I just think is radical. It grabs people from far away and then eats. It's gonna be a lot of fun to use like a big centerpiece. And lots of different attacks, 4 attacks per round. means it won't really be a pushover, even if it's just a solo. You ever run
Yeah.
into that problem, Pete, with solos? With
Oh
like,
yeah, for sure.
yeah, where if
Legendary actions go a long way towards making
mm,
that solo boss not feel, uh, you know, unintimidating.
yeah, so do lots of attacks.
Yeah, lots of attacks will do it. Good resistances so they don't get like stun locked are nice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. I mean, I just always harken back to my last campaign where I was running a lich uh, in one of their fights, and man, they just crashed it. And the main problem was the lich did one thing per round, and all of them did a thing per round, and then the lich died.
I mean, that's kind of
Yeah,
sad. That poor
it is
lich.
pretty sad. Well, I mean, phylacteries go a long way, but that's not the point. Anyway, pumpkin's real cool.
Yep,
I'm excited to use this guy. And
I
then
am as well.
our next little monster is the pumpling, the little offspring or servant or what have you of the pumpkin. Pumplings are small undead creatures. The idea is they're undead pumpkins. Obviously, they are chaotic evil like their pumpkin overlord.
Of course.
Um, and yeah, they have almost no health. They have a pretty good armor class because they got that pumpkin. You fought a couple different things, Farfel. It might not have been that. It might have been the thing before that. I don't remember. Uh, and yes, you definitely did fight a lich, more than one. Anyway, um, they got that pumpkin AC, um, and my favorite thing about these guys, the bludgeoning vulnerability is just great. I love the idea that even commoners with like baseball bats can kill these, but then they blow up. They're little flaming, exploding pumpkins. They just run at you and blow up, and it's amazing. And of course, like the pumpkin, whether they're emotionless, you can't tell them apart from pumpkins.
Or this is from a massive. Yeah,
We
okay.
should probably fix that.
Yes, we have. It is now fixed. We probably copy and pasted it.
Yeah, probably. And yeah, they have their bite and their slam attack, which their slam kills them, but then they blow up. So
yes, and that's how they do their damage.
Pretty good cannon fodder like minions. Nothing instills terror more in players than just having a swarm of these like exploding little things come out of nowhere.
Because they're just damage. They're just like unavoidable damage.
Well, the rogue is fine.
Yeah, the rogue is the only one that's fine.
Yeah, everyone else is in bad shape. The monk depends on the level. Anyway.
Yes. And then last but not least, we made the Candy Bowl Creeper, which was a really cute monster. It is
cute.
I would use the word cute, yes, but I mean, I think there's a lot of cute design elements. In particular, its take one aspects, but I've gotten ahead of myself. The Candy Bowl Creeper is a monster, an aberration that is lawful evil and is indistinguishable from a wooden stool with a bowl of candy on it that says take one. And if you take more than one, it is very mimic-like in that it comes alive and pulls you into the candy bowl and turns you into a piece of candy as it consumes you. But only
pretty terrifying.
But only if you take more than one.
Only if you take more than one. If you take one piece of candy, you're good.
Yep. It's very much like the Revenant in that it will track you down. It'll hunt you down on any plane if you take more than one of its pieces of candy.
Amen. I really like the Candy Bowl Creeper. I'm not sure how on earth we're going to tie this in, but maybe we will.
Yeah. I mean,
we'll find out.
The first two, certainly, I mean, they were made for each other.
Yeah, literally. I mean, literally. They were made for each other.
I mean, fair.
But yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm really excited to put this together. Let's start. I see V-Bunny's already got an idea thrown out there. And I was going to say, let's start getting some base ideas. I've got literally nothing. I'm a blank slate right now. Holy shit, V-Bunny, I'm so in.
I am as well. And I have one idea as well about the relationship between the pumplings and the pumpkin. And the pumpkin, if I could throw that out as another kind of baseline to start at.
Sure. I mean, let's start with explain for those who can't read the chat right now. V-Bunny's idea, let's have it be in a brewery that makes pumpkin ale. I like that a lot. I think
I do
that's a
too.
really
I think that could
cool.
be very fun.
Uh, Farful, thank you for your subscription. We appreciate your support. The candy bowl can be a random trap that the characters will interact with because there's just a weird candy bowl. I mean, that's what it's looking like right now. Maybe we can find a way to tie that in a little more. We'll see. Um, and Frog is saying the creeper could be at the doors to the brewery. That's possible too.
You know
What
what
were
I
you saying, Pete?
also
Sorry,
well,
go
I
ahead.
was just going to say about what Farfel was saying about the candy bowl as a random trap. I can't fathom now that you say that if as a DM you really casually mentioned like in the lobby of say the brewery or whatever it is that there is, if there was a candy bowl that said take one, I cannot fathom your players not either taking a piece of candy or taking more than one piece of candy.
Okay, so right now, all three of these things that have been thrown together, the brewery, the the candy creeper, the take one bowl, kind of being a little weird for fantasy world, and Farful saying the candy bowl's just randomly there. Pete, your idea that there's just in the lobby, and your word lobby is what strikes me. What are we making? We're making a one-shot Dungeons and Dragons adventure to be played in 5th edition D&D, but who has to say that has to be in a medieval setting? What if the concept, the precept to this adventure is that your kids dressed up as their D&D characters for Halloween, and on a dare they go into this brewery?
I mean, I think that could be very fun. Do they or I mean, I
Well,
guess it doesn't even have to be like they're dressed up as D&D characters. They're just dressed up or like they don't
yeah, I mean
necessarily have to
that's
know about
fantasy
D&D
character.
like I am a wizard.
Yeah, they're dressed up as fantasy characters. I think that works super well.
But Jeremy, why are these kids going to a brewery?
I don't know. They're drunk. I don't fucking know, Pete.
It's kid beer. It's
Kid beer. They're there for their kid beer. Oh no.
um, I'm just fooling you. The thing I was going to say before is an idea I had, and maybe it doesn't go quite as well because I was picturing a more Fantasyland setting originally, but I kind of like this direction we're starting to go.
It's a concept, not necessarily
yeah.
the concept, but it's a concept.
Yeah.
Frat boys. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pete. I keep.
Frat boys out trick or treating for beer. Delightful. I wish that was a real thing that I could do. Anyway, beside the point. The pumplings. One of the things that I thought was really interesting about the pumplings is that they are undead pumpkins, which like the Pump King is a plant and he's this big like plant monster, but the pumplings are undead. So my thoughts on what the pumplings were is I imagine that when the pumpkin kills people, he just throws their souls into little pumpkins, and that's why they're undead.
Oh, I super dig that. So Pumpkin puts the souls of his victims into dead pumpkins to create his army of pumpkins. And that creates so much more just terror when they figure that out later on in the adventure, and they're like, "What? Those were people? Oh my god!" You know,
those were the workers at the factory. If that's what we go with, and
I'm super into all these ideas so far. Holy shit! Yeah, out trick or treating for beer. Frog was saying on a dare, it's closed on Halloween. I think that's a great way if we want to do a more like younger kids dressed up as that being a concept. Or we could go with a standard Fantasyland kind of deal. Like there are breweries in Fantasyland, you know,
and also if it's
every realm.
If it's a kid kind of thing, and we want it to be little kids, because I think that's a really fun concept. And we could maybe just pull a twist on the brewery and just have it be like a juicery or a pumpkin pie.
I don't know. I like. I really like the brewery. I think we could. You're right. We could goof it up a little, but
it's an option.
Yeah. I mean, we got a bunch of options. So let's see. We have kids / frat boys out trick or treating for beer or candy.
Frat boys.
Yeah, I spelled it wrong. Candy / beer.
Yeah, you needed a Z in there.
Oh, thank you, Pete. And then what's the next kind of subtopic, right? Oh, hello, Maddie Morgs. Welcome to the conversation here. We got some really cool ideas bumping around right now. Go in on a dare. Go in on a dare. Not a bad idea. Maybe to steal something. I mean, we can come up with a whole bunch of different reasons. And of course, they're all in costume. All in costume. Your character classes. I super like that right now. I don't know.
I
It
think
sounds
that'd be
rad to
cool.
me.
Well, let's talk about like what the pumpkin. So, like, who is the pumpkin in this scenario? Because that's going to be kind of the focus, and I imagine uh, he'll be kind of the final villain as we've built this big, like, legendary action monster, and the one kind of behind the scenes, being the constant threat that's bothering these kids and/or frat boys. Maybe it's a
Mm-hmm.
combination of kids and frat boys.
Well, and I saw Frog was saying, yeah, it could be a dwarven brewery, right? And these are all dwarven kids because dwarven kids drink ale.
Oh, of
I mean,
course.
that would work too if you want to run it in the Fantasyland setting. Um, I'll put that on there too because I want to keep all of the concepts.
Yeah, that's a good
rolling.
point too. And I mean, there's definitely, I mean, a brewery isn't something that could not exist in a fantasy setting.
I mean, if more than not exist, it definitely exists.
Yeah.
Come on, thing. All right, being bad, Pete. Being naughty. There we go. We're good. Son of a gun.
Farfel says this is the closest to real brewing we've gotten.
The closest, and it might be the closest we ever get. So, okay, so we have the idea one, which is the kids, and then like Fantasyland, Dwarven Brewery, because I think we're on the brewery train. I think that was you, V Bunny, who came up with that idea. Brewery, maybe it's abandoned.
Abandoned is a possibility.
Because I think that kind of really could make sense and tie in for like, I mean, it works in the exact same way as that first adventure as a one-off. It's the abandoned dwarven brewery. Who knows what went it down? Put it down or whatnot, and that's where the pumpkin is, right?
Farfel was also mentioning as a possibility to throw in at some point the ooze booze the booze ooze as a monster, since we're doing this in the brewery, and this does seem like the perfect adventure to get the booze ooze in. I'm gonna throw that.
Oh boy, Matty Morks, frat boys, better watch out. I hear Skylar's dad totally owns the car dealership. His friends Chad and Hunter also don't miss leg days. You got to be careful of those guys. They'll kick your butt. So Dwarven Brewery makes sense. As like a cool thing to explore here. You put the booze good. Regardless, it looks like we're sticking with brewery at this point. The brewery makes pumpkin ale. Makes / made pumpkin ale. Pumpkin puts silver into the pumpkins. What other kind of notes do we want to hit on throughout this? So Candy Bowl Creeper. I think Farfel was saying in lobby. Or in front of building. But I don't think it should be in front of building. I like the idea of it being just kind of like a leftover in like an office kind of deal. You know what I mean? A relic from when it wasn't abandoned or run down. What do you think? And chat for them.
So are we going to go with the abandoned factory? So like the pumpkin has kind of taken over and
I think
made this place his home.
Abandoned in either way, right?
Well, I didn't know if it was like, we could also go with the direction where the brewery is still in production and the pumpkin's just pulling the scenes behind the actual production of pumpkins, and maybe he's making like evil pumpkin ale or some variant on that.
Yeah, maybe.
And when I say evil pumpkin ale,
and it's transforming everyone into pumplings.
That's also an option.
Dear God. Yeah, we could run that either way. So Candy Bowl Creeper. So maybe left outside, in the lobby of the abandoned building, something like that. Barfel says, I like still running brewery more than an abandoned one. All right. I think that's a cool idea. It's definitely a more challenging approach to it. The abandoned one's pretty, pretty straightforward. But I think that's a good idea. Maybe it's just closed or why everyone disappeared or something. Yeah, it's another good point of view, Bunny. It could just be closed for tonight because Halloween.
Like Matty Morgs, the Pumpkin King feels he's owed a tithe or tax of some kind. Every fall, everyone starts talking amongst themselves, wondering if it'll be the time they see the pumpkin price added to all kinds of goods like coffee, eggnog, and bread. Um, I also really like kind of embodying that idea of in the fall time, pumpkin is in everything, and I like the idea that the pumpkin, which works out of the brewery, is forcing pumpkin to be in more and more things where pumpkin just does not belong. I think it's a very uh, I think it's a very seasonal thing. And Max, to answer your question, what we're making here, we're building an adventure using some of the monsters we brewed 2 weeks ago on Brews.
Yep. Mainly the pumpkin and his pumpling.
There's pumpkin salad. It's just a bunch of chopped up pumpkin in a bowl. Just getting diamonds for your spell casting. Make sure they're pumpkin diamonds.
Okay. So let's start thinking about what we want this adventure to what direction we want it to go in. Because we've got some really cool themes that we want to incorporate in. But what do we want the adventure to be? Is it exploring the brewery? Is it maybe something to do with like a pumpkin zombies kind of deal? All of the different pumpkin products have turned the people of the town into pumplings, and only these four brave trick-or-treaters who don't like pumpkin can solve, something like that. What do we want? What kind of aim are we shooting?
I'm really into this idea that we're starting to get into now, where the pumpkin brewery is kind of lording over this town and like forcing pumpkin into more things. Because I think we bring in a couple of aspects where there's rolling into whatever the location where the brewery is and seeing like the negative effects of it. They get to investigate. They get to talk to some town folks, start to learn like the problems that are coming up, and then once we actually kind of move into the brewery, um, there's kind of probably an aspect of dialogue and persuasion where they're trying to actually get past whatever like the regular more face of the brewery is, and then I imagine there's like a dungeon crawl aspect where now you're in the brewery and in the layer of the thing. So I don't know, I think that gives it a lot more kind of variety in role playing opportunities there.
Okay, so we have regular people that still work at this brewery.
Maybe, or maybe they're just pumpkins in human costumes.
That's bizarre for certain. One of the things that I was immediately thinking of is intellect devourers are a really good way to tie those things in. You can still have like humans or humanoids working and living and doing things, but there's an intellect devourer in their head controlling them.
Right? I know you love you some intellect devourers, Jeremy.
I just think that'd be a pretty
no,
cool...
I think that could be very cool.
Yeah, and for saying pumpkin intellect devourers, yeah, maybe that's what happens to the pulp, right? These pumpkins on the pulp get scooped out and put into people's brain.
Oh.
Or maybe not.
We could even just make another pumpkin. We could even just make another pumpkin monster that is a pumpkin intellect devourer. Like, imagine how fun it would be if, like the intellect devourer, they like fought one of these people, and then the pumpkin just crawled out of the head instead of like the intellect devourer brain. That just sounds very funny.
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, and maybe that doesn't involve making a whole new creature. Maybe that's just a reflavor of the intellect devourer. Maybe we make a new thing. I don't know. I think it'd be okay to just call it a pumpkin intellect devourer.
Yeah, I don't think you need to make anything new. I think we just say it's just a pumpkin.
Controls, normal, factory workers.
Maddie Moore just saying, wouldn't it be just like a jack-o'-lantern that fits on people's heads? Like a mask that they have on? I think that could also be very cool.
Ooh, that would be super cool, because that ties into like, oh yeah, they're in costume.
Yep.
Wow, are they in costume?
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Intellect devourer controls factory workers, maybe in the form of a jack-o'-lantern. Cool. I super dig that. I think that's super fitting. What else do we going? So we have the factory, the brewery, right? And I guess the idea we're kind of going away from the kids frat boys out trick or treating for beer, and we're going more toward back into Fantasyland, right? Though I
I'm
suppose
most
you could play
comfortable
this
there.
in either
Yeah,
setting.
you could. I think you could do it either way.
Uh, okay, I like that. So I'm gonna just all right, so we got the brewery. We're gonna definitely have the booze ooze. So I don't know. Are we? What are we trying to build? Right? Are we trying to build like a Delvesian one shot, a 3 to 4 encounter, 3 to 4 hour one shot adventure, or are we going for something a little more longer term? Maybe 6 to 8 hours or a couple sessions.
Um, I would like to go with something that is. Um, I would like to do something that's, I guess, a little bit Delvesian, maybe something in between there, where that's got that Delvesian style. Like, there's a part at the end where there is something akin to a dungeon, but I would like there to be more of an intro where there's kind of some more role playing and investigating kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Just as I think, just if nothing else, as a contrast to what you do often on Behind the Screen.
Yeah, I think it's an awesome idea. And V Bunny's saying one shot, 4 hours. Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll shoot for like 4 to 5 hours. There's a little more
A
emphasis
beefy one
on
shot.
the exploration aspect.
Yeah.
Because you're the whole key to running one of these horror adventures, and in a lot of horror games, is that fear of exploring the unknown, right? What is this place? It's scary, it's spooky, it's bad.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, let's start going in. So I guess what we've had a couple of people mention this already in the chat. V Bunny was saying something about it a minute ago, but we have to come up with our central tension. Why are the characters exploring? Why do they have to go in? Right? What pushes them to explore the brewery? Obviously, we have this rising tension that's been happening over the course of the last few months throughout the season, and the townspeople can say of that. But what really is the straw that breaks the camel's back? That tells the characters you need to actually go in and confront whatever this is, right?
Um, that is a good question.
Well, yeah, exactly why we wanted to come up with it.
Yeah.
V Bunny was saying maybe the town folk need to investigate because people have been acting really strangely and they haven't been coming home. That would be a really interesting one. I think that would work really well, especially if the idea that if the concept we stick with is that the Pumpkin has been slowly growing in power over the past few years. And now, only now this year, are they ready to make their plan a reality and take
To
over
make their move.
whatever.
Yeah. I
Um,
can definitely picture, like, if we're doing the pumpkin mask kind of factory workers, I can definitely picture a concerned parent whose child has been getting just way too into their job, and they haven't been home from work in a few days, and they won't let you into the factory, like that kind of thing.
so I like that. Concerned parent slash loved one, worried that their, we'll say significant other hasn't come home from the factory in days. So there's a good one right there. Farfel was saying they've just had enough of pumpkin. I mean, in a one shot, you can do something so simple as that, right?
Yeah,
You can
for
just
sure.
say, "This is the adventure." It's nicer to have it be a little more organic than that, but it's not too awful.
Yeah,
Uh,
if you're doing that kind of vibe, I think like
it's
it would be
goofier.
everyone in the town is very clearly like really sick of pumpkin, and I feel like everyone in the town would have like banded together and put a coin purse together, and like the mayor of the town prevents it to anyone able to do something about all the pumpkin, which would be a very straightforward, and that even works for the one shot where it's just like here is what the adventure is. You're going to do it. Like,
Driving you mad. One of the things I love about this idea, if we
I
were to
love.
do that,
Oh, sorry, I was laughing
oh,
at Matty Morgan's comment. Just
go ahead.
sternly worded letters to the brewery hasn't worked. It's time to call in strangers to risk themselves for this local concern.
Yeah, really. Welcome to Dungeons and Dragons. One of the things I really like about this kind of goofier feel that Farfel suggested, pumpkin flavored things are driving you mad. Maybe at the beginning, at the start, you roll for a random indefinite madness. That might be a cool tie-in there. A way to make that a little more interesting. If all the characters have some weird madness effect while they're trying to go through, that might be fun.
In the same regard, maybe the villagers of the town are acting with some of these strange madnesses and kind of, they're consuming a little bit too much pumpkin. They go into like the local tavern and order a drink, and it's the pumpkin ale. They ask for, a side of mutton, and they just bring out pumpkin pies, and everyone in the tavern is a little bit too aggressive or has some kind of strange quirks that they can tell that just something's off about the place. The workers have the madness. Yeah, the workers probably definitely have the madness.
Okay. I super dig that. But I guess which one do we really want to? Because we do need to kind of
kind of narrow one down for our own
Yeah.
purposes here.
I see Metamorph is a very great point, right? Be sure to have a boundary or a reasonable answer to the question, why don't you just burn down the brewery? That's a very good question. Why don't you just burn down the brewery? And I think for some of these things, there's not a good answer to. Like the pumpkin spice everything, everything's pumpkin. Well, why don't you just burn down the brewery?
It's made of stone.
Okay, sure. And I mean that's a cheap answer, but it's a one shot, so it's okay to have a cheap answer sometimes.
Full of alcohol explosion would be too destructive. That's very funny as well.
That's pretty troll. But of course, the parent or significant other concerned about their, that their significant other or child has not returned. Well, that's a little different, right?
No.
That you don't do that because you don't want them to die.
Yeah, I mean, there's people working in the brewery. I think it would be presumably the moral implications, and how like deep seated it is within the town that would prevent people from doing that. In theory, although I definitely know parties that would do it anyway.
Well, you know what? Here's a really good one. If we either one, right? That the brewery is the sole economic driver of the town. All of the people are farmers. Everything they have goes into the brewery, and that kind of goes out, right? That can kind of be a big reason why they don't want you to just destroy it, because we need it. Stop the bad things, but we need the brewery. So that's a not a bad option, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so we have so we have our basic central tension here. I think it's probably going to be best to take this loved one or NPC or something. I think that's like the best way to tie into it. I almost like the idea of, especially if you're doing this as a one shot in an existing game. One of the things I love to do is to tie in these kind of holiday one shots to an existing adventure, an existing campaign that you'd be running. And a great way to do this is, do the players know literally any NPCs that they care about? Oh, they mentioned they were stopping by this town to visit to get some of their favorite ale.
Yep.
And then the last place anyone seen them was going into the brewery. Dun, dun, dun. Right. Now they have double reason. Oh my gosh, our NPC friend is in the brewery. We have to rescue.
The old Gandalf doesn't show up at the inn of the Prancing Pony.
Exactly. So I think, God damn it, Tolkien, he's thought of everything.
He's done it all.
He's done it all.
You can't do anything in fantasy without stepping on Tolkien's toes.
That's all right, though. Hello, Barber. Welcome to the, 13 Arbor. Welcome.
Welcome
to the channel. Let's see.
Just as a quick side note, Tolkien's toes would just be a great D&D podcast about how everyone is ripping off Tolkien all the time.
Yeah, maybe. I was thinking they'd be like a mountain, because that just sounds like a cool name for a mountain.
Tolkien's toes?
Yeah, I thought that'd be cool. The toes.
I guess I can see it. I think it could be cool.
Yeah, maybe like coming out like or maybe a cliff edge right over going a big ocean. Oh, that's neat to me. Anyway,
I agree. Sorry to sidetrack.
The brewery is staffed exclusively by elderly men. Excellent, Matty Morgs. That'll make the adventure DnDTime improved. Let's see. Anyway, so let's start actually like putting stuff together. So I think the easiest tie-in, and I think the strongest one that gives the characters the most investment, is an NPC that players like visited the town to get their favorite pumpkin drink, seasonal pumpkin drink.
Yes, of course.
Seasonal and regionally exclusive pumpkin spiced beverage. They were last seen entering the brewery and have not returned. And I think we can tie literally all of these other things into there too, right? There's way too much pumpkin shit in this town, and there are people concerned about the factory workers not having come back. I think all of this is what ties in. It's all part of the building.
Absolutely.
Why do we have to explore this? And then the final straw is, oh yeah, also your best friends. You know? Oh no!
You should have just said that from the beginning.
Yeah, of course, but you save that part for last.
Oh yeah.
Right? They all know it by the time they find out. They've put 1 + 1 together, but that yeah.
And yeah, V Bunny, pumpkin spice latte, anyone. I really love pumpkin spice lattes. I'm not gonna lie. I absolutely adore pumpkin flavored things.
I've never had a pumpkin spice latte.
Jeremy, you're missing out on a pretty good.
Well, I don't like regular latte.
Then you probably would not. Actually, you probably might still like a pumpkin spice latte.
Pete,
it's like so.
Pete, why would they not just always have pumpkin spice lattes if they're just that good?
The answer is because they give you the feeling of missing out and exclusivity when they get you on that one chunk of the year.
I don't know about that. Anyway. So yeah, I love this. I think this is a good central tension. It gives them a good reason not to like burn the place down and kill everyone immediately. And it gives them a couple like cool alternate goals too. Maybe they have to find a couple NPCs. They have the one they care about, and then the one the townspeople asked them to care about, but like, whatever. And we said intellect devourers up here, but maybe the pumpkin helmets are like a curse, right? They're something that can be removed. I think that'd be a cool twist too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll
put a note it's like the jack-o'-lantern like head thing. That's definitely something that could take off, and maybe they snap out of their trance if you take off the jack-o'-lantern head.
Yeah, I like that a lot more because it gives them it gives good aligned characters this like, we can't just kill good people. Oh no, they're just mind controlled.
I'm jumping a little bit ahead here, but I just had a very pleasant mental image of the owner, because I imagine that the Pump King is kind of like the owner of the brewery, or regardless, the leader, the person that's calling the shots, if not directly the owner. I really had a nice thought of picturing them walking into like the final room, like the owner's office, and It's just like a suit that a bunch of pumpkin vines are kind of like animating with like a dumb pumpkin mask head on top of it that's
Oh,
pretending
jeez.
to be a person. Uh, maybe
Comical, but horrifying.
yeah, maybe a little bit too obviously not. Maybe a little bit too obviously not a real person, but the people who are pumpkin brainwashed don't know the difference. The
I'm
owner of
with
the
you.
brewery is trapped in the vines of the pumpkin. I mean, the owner of the brewery has probably been a pumpling for a long time.
But now is my chance. I will become the greatest pumpkin there is and take over this pitiful land.
Little brewery of horrors.
Little Brewery of Horrors. Is that the name of our adventure? Oh,
Little brewery of horrors.
anyway. So let's start putting together the actual components of the event. Um, so I think we kind of can split this up into a couple major encounters and then um like exploration slash investigation, right? So I think like phase one is investigate and discover what's going on.
Hmm.
So let's start talking about where they go. So they enter the town. So players enter town. This is easy. Like that's not something that you have to force. You can just say, "Yeah, you're entering this town." Um, on the precept of meeting a friend at the tavern. I like that one. Or pretext rather. Uh, of meeting an old NPC friend at the tavern for a drink. I think it's a pretty good starting place. Now let's start talking about the tavern. What do we want to call the tavern? I think that's the first real step, right, Pete?
I think that's a great idea.
I want to. What do you guys think? I want a good like pumpkin pun, but like a subtle one they might not think about. Like gourd on the vine, right? Something like
I was
that.
thinking with the word gourd too, like maybe like Gordon's.
Oh, Gordon's Pub. I love that. That's a very good one. And of course, maybe who's it run by?
Well, Gordon.
Oh, Old Gord.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking Gordon, as it
Old
is a
Gordon.
name.
Okay, sure. Trust the Gordon Farmerman. Oh my god.
Um, and
Oh boy.
and as I was picturing like walking into the town, I imagine as you were describing like the surrounding landscapes, they would just describe pumpkin fields as far as the eye can see. The surrounding farmers, all of them kind of working out in the pumpkin patches surrounding the village as kind of how this is able to be supported. I see Michael Gordon from Rye Guy Big Boy. Also, hello, Rye Guy Big Boy. It's good to see you out there.
Michael Gordon. Is he like a washed up athlete?
A washed up basketball player.
You heard nothing from me. So guys, are we making this into Space Jam? Are you making this into Space Jam? No. Wait a minute. Here, hold up for a second, guys. We're not going to make Secret Space Jam, are we?
Someday we're gonna make secret. Well, no. Someday we're not gonna make Secret Space Jam. Someday we're going to make Space Jam.
Gordon Ramsay. Jesus Christ. For now, we're gonna call it.
I like Gordon. I like Gordon's Pub.
We'll start with Gordon's Pub for now. I guess a guy, Old Gordon, runs a pub. And I'll spell Gordon the correct way instead of like a gourd for the name. Just cause if the players ask for that's one of the things that happens quite a few times. If a player will ask you how do you spell this, and I like when players do that. It first of all it means they're taking notes, and I respect that. Thank you for giving a fuck about my game. Secondly, if a player is doing that and they ask for the spelling of both the guy and the pub, and they notice that difference, that's a really cool like wait a minute moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, uh, I don't know if we need to name him Gordon Ramsay. I'll be real. I don't think we need to go that far into the fun, guys.
Although Matty Morgs says, "I hate this. This had no pumpkin in it. Absolutely dreadful."
Oh.
I mean,
All right.
it's delightful.
Old Gordon Ramsay runs a pub.
We can keep it in the back. You know,
As players enter the pub, the barkeep is yelling at. We're gonna set this like opening scene, right? Yelling at the people in the back. What do we call it? Like the cooks in the back,
yeah.
in the back room, saying, "This is what did you say? Absolutely dreadful."
I think dreadful is the kind of thing that Gordon Ramsay would.
There's no pumpkin in it.
This.
Okay, so we have this goofy kind of opening scene. What's the pub like? Is it busy? Are there tons of people here, or is it dead?
Uh,
I like the idea that it's incredibly busy, and just people are just shoveling down pumpkin stuff.
yeah, I think that's more interesting. Just because there's more to interact with in a pub
Yeah.
that's slammed like that.
Townsfolk, and I like that it's like from all walks of life. So I like that like there are nobles here, there are peasants, everyone's here.
And it's got
Are
that
here.
sort of it's do they have that kind of reckless abandon eating to the point where it's ridiculous kind of vibe? Is that what we're going for, or is it more of just like everyone really enjoys the food here?
I think to tie that in, right? So it's extremely easy. Townsfolk from all sorts of life are here. So we say that, like, at a glance. So what they first notice is all these people are socializing. All these folks are socializing and eating together and having a good time, right?
Yeah,
And having
and
a good time.
I think it's, for one thing, for a Halloween adventure, you want there to be at least a little bit of that kind of spooky factor. And the moment where it turns, I think, is a lot more. Uh, it's more fun to walk into the place and have everything feel kind of exciting, and then as they learn a little bit more
Yeah.
about what's going on, for it to start to get a new light as they look at.
Yeah, and I think I like the idea that, like, as PCs like spend more time, so maybe like a few minutes, right? Uh, they start to notice that the townsfolk are absolutely shoveling down the food. So I like they did, like, at first they don't quite notice, but just how mindlessly these people are eating. But maybe like as they interact with them and as they spend more time in the pub, they start to pick up on it.
Yeah, it becomes a little bit more. It becomes a little bit more off-putting, I imagine.
Yeah, so let's talk about their NPC friend because they're here to find an NPC friend. Maybe we want to pick. Do we want to like come up with a couple of NPCs they might notice around the pub, or do we just want to um, be a little flatter with that? I guess the question is,
I
how
think it's
long do we want them to spend in the tavern exploring?
um, and I don't think. Are we going to have them interact with the town at large, or are we just going to have them mostly kind of hang out at the tavern? Is the question. Because if the answer is they're also going to go kind of around the town and talk to some other folks and get a sense of the whole picture here, then I don't think necessarily the tavern is going to be all that long of an encounter, because there's a lot of
Especially if
stuff
it's
to
a
do.
really uncomfortable
Yeah.
thing. So okay, then in that case, we'll just note that Gordon Ramsay has not seen their NPC friend,
NPC friend Michael Gordon.
i.e., they have not shown up at the desk. And of course, this is weird because the NPC was supposed to be here first. Cool. So I think at this point we're gonna go there. We have the tavern, Gordon's Pub. We've got the feel for it. It's very uncomfortable, but there's one thing that we haven't quite hit yet, and I think V Bunny's mentioning it right now. Oh well, not really. Different namesake. Why is the tavern called Gordon's Pub? I love when you have a tavern and you call it like the bleached elkhorn, right, or something, or you give it a name, and then it has like a thing. Maybe it has a large white staghorn, right? You call it like the Ivory Stag is a great name for a tavern, and then it has mounted above the bar, right, some big bleached white staghorn. What about Gordon's Pub makes it kind of stand out? Or do we not want to bother with that, and we're just gonna
Um,
say it's a creepy tavern?
well, originally for the originally my thought on the name Gordon's Pub was that it would be named after the owner, which would be Gordon, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be at least the reason for the name. But if we want to go, I mean, depending on how wild we could go, I mean, we could have gourds incorporated in the motif of the tavern. Maybe there's kind of some flat gourds that are kind of thick and used as chairs. Maybe or the tables, something along those
Oh, that's a
lines.
really awesome one. It's just flat, kind of flat pumpkins with the tops taken off the top, the actual vine part taken off the top that people are sitting on. That's pretty neat. I like that. Uh, cool. I love that. I think that's cool. Yeah, it's very cool. Um, more flattish pumpkins uh, with the stem removed make up many of the SWAT tools inside that. I like that a lot. I think that really gives it a lot. A lot.
Matty Morg says, "Don't forget to use squash as pun fodder." That is a very good point. We have neglected squash completely thus far, but we'll make sure that at some point that the Pumpkin instructs his minions to squash
Maybe we can make that
the
into one of his
adventurers.
legendary actions. We'll get rid of instead of vine, we'll just call it squash. Um, he uses his squash move and whips you.
Prepare to be squashed. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm super digging this right now. I think we're really getting. Let's think of some other places around the tavern. Where is so when we're running these kind of adventures, Pete? I don't know about you, but I try to think of ahead of time. What would I'm sure you do every day. Um, try to think ahead of time of well, how do I steer them to the next point of interest in the town? In this case,
Yes.
it seems like they're gonna just leave this tavern pretty quickly when they find out Gordon doesn't know anything, and everyone here is kind of creepily just devouring. Um,
Yeah. It's a little bit of it's just kind of a bad scene, I think.
yeah,
And especially, I think if you want to really drive that point home, um, if they're looking for their friend and he's not there, I think you can just kind of decide at the start of the adventure that they're running a little bit late. So either the
hmm
friend, I think they'll come to one of two conclusions there. Either their friend got tired of waiting and left, or two, they're late and their friend still hasn't gotten there. Something's up.
yeah. So I think the immediate tie-in, right, is the idea is that the NPC was supposed to be there first, right?
Yeah.
And so if they don't talk to Gordon, then they know that they just assume that he must have been gone because they were running. If they do talk to Gordon, they know he hasn't been there. So it works both ways. Um, but what's their next point of interest, right? What's the next obvious place they were going to?
Um,
Because
yeah,
we need to kind of try and direct it a little.
that is a good point.
Is there
The
like a
next
festival going on?
That was my first thought, but I feel like that seemed a little bit too easy to me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But like, because I feel like there's kind of always a festival on these Halloween things, and I like that we hadn't done that yet, and it was just
hmm
kind of a pumpkin thing. But a festival would work really well for this sort of thing. Um,
Yeah, a festival would work well, but at the same time, I think we're going for like a dark kind of um melancholy almost vibe here, right? This isn't like people celebrating, this is people slowly rotting away, right? Becoming the undead pumpling. So I don't think festivals are really the direction we want to go for that aesthetic too.
Um,
Even though it would work. Maybe if we like intentionally describe a really dreary, like heartless, that could be interesting.
I think that could be pretty cool. Farfel swing at a farmer's market. Everyone's just selling pumpkins. Um,
Yeah, I don't want to like hammer them with it immediately. You know what I mean? Because the whole thing's gonna be pumpkin themed.
yeah,
Um,
we are using quite a few pumpkins.
yeah, we've already got more than one gourd pun, pumpkin stools, and pumpkin patch that they immediately run into coming into the town. I think this is a part to step away from the pumpkins a little bit. Um, hmm. You know,
I feel like there needs to be, in that case, some kind of lead in the tavern specifically that tells
mhm.
them kind of where their friend was, um, and maybe um,
Maybe
uh,
there's an inn. Maybe there's the inn separate from the tavern.
that could be a possibility. But even if the inn is separate from the tavern, I think there has to be either someone at the tavern that saw their friend that matched their description, be it the tavern keep or one of the random patrons, and kind of
Mhm.
had a general idea of where they were going.
Okay, so maybe
Because
like, sorry, go ahead.
the friend was going there because they love the pumpkin ale that this tavern makes, this tavern brews, or that the brewery in this town makes, and they can get it at this tavern. But maybe they arrived and for some reason they were out of the specific pumpkin ale. They still have lots of pumpkin ales, but they were out of the specific one that the friend wanted, and that sent them somewhere else. Um, just as kind of like a breadcrumb trail to follow.
Here's a really cool idea. What if we kind of give them the, because we're trying to be a little spooky here.
Hmm.
What if they are trailed as they leave the tavern? Even if they don't know where they're going, you describe, yeah, as you're trying to figure out where you're going and you're just kind of walking down the road toward the center of town, you notice you're being trailed by a black cloaked figure. And maybe this person is someone who is native to the town but doesn't eat the pumpkin for some reason, right?
They're allergic.
Right. Oh, I mean, right. I mean, they're allergic is a goofy, fun one. They're Michael Gordon, and they can't afford to eat all those carbs. Otherwise, they'll totally lose their shit. Right. You can do some goofy puns, or you can just have it be a person. Right. Someone who maybe is also looking for the NPC. That's not a bad one.
Yep. Or they're
Uh,
just on. It could also be someone that's just kind of onto the shit going on in the town.
yeah, I think that's a really cool idea. So maybe like as Pacey's leaving tavern, a dark cloaked
I think that's a cool
uh,
idea.
figure, because that gives them a cool like, well, what do we do, right? I can't spell cloaked. Uh, Figure, and I'm just gonna an elf begins to trail them. And this is I really like this because it gives them a cool like, well, what do we do? Do we do we let them follow us? Do we try and ambush them? What's the move? Um, Maybe the guy's a vampire hunter. Whoa, that's troll as hell. Uh,
The
there's
red herring. It's a terrible vampire on the loose. You wouldn't happen to be him, would you? That has nothing to do with the plot, but
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things it could be, right? It could be someone also looking for the NPC that just has another lead. It could be just like a monster hunter person, right? Another adventurer that's coming to town and is like, things aren't cool here.
and
We gotta like be careful.
it could be an employee from the factory who sees them not enjoying the pumpkin as much as they should.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. Hmm. That's not bad at all. Maybe that's what happens, right? Maybe they meet this NPC, right? This NPC trails them. And then as they're like talking, because a lot of the times when you have this exposition NPC, what'll happen is the players and the NPC will get caught up in like the players asking lots and lots of questions, and you as the NPC being like, "Look, I know stuff, but I don't know literally everything, guys. I'm not going to tell you the whole adventure." And there just gets a lot of back and forth where things get bogged down. Maybe have them be attacked by townsfolk who are like, "I see you haven't been eating very much of our delicious pumpkin," right? To kind of break up that conversation.
Was it not to your taste, or?
Yeah, right. I think we could make that. I think that would work pretty well. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, I think so as well. I think that could be very interesting. Um,
Add add a bunny folk Banicula as a distraction instead of Dracula.
I mean, delightful.
Right.
It's
I
absolutely
think that's an entirely separate adventure, but an amazing adventure, nonetheless. We'll do that next year for DnDTime Halloween event.
Banicula.
Blah. I'm here to suck your blood.
That's a pretty good combination of your. Although it was more of a grung. That sounded like Banicula Froggenhoppen. Dracula Froggenhoppen.
Yeah, whatever.
That was still pretty good. That was a good mix of two voices there.
Thank you, Pete. Anyway, so I like the idea that there's the exposition NPC. This is an exposition NPC. Warns them that things are not as they should in the town.
Either directly or indirectly by their inquisition.
Yeah. And has seen the party's NPC friend heading into the brewery. So there's your direct into the brewery. I think that's a cool one.
And I like the idea that if it's like an ally, then they're just giving them advice. And they probably say something like, "But I would stay away from there." But if it's the enemy, then it's, "Yeah, I believe they went to the brewery." And it's like,
well,
we'll
I think that is
and then we'll indoctrinate them or deal with them.
Well, I thought we were going to have this be an ally, and then have the other NPCs kind of jump them in the conversation, right?
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, just to try and like push things in the direction, and then we can introduce the pumpkin-headed monsters, right? People wearing pumpkins on their heads attack them. Might be a cool way to do it. What do you think? I think that would be a nice way, because I want, one of the things that I don't want to have happen is the players to get to the brewery. They see the people wearing the jack-o'-lantern helmets. They don't know that they're mind-controlled and evil, right? And then they say, "No, you can't come in." And the player's like, "Well, I don't want to murder these random people who are just dressed up for the festival." All right, I leave. They need to know before they get to the brewery that those pumpkin-headed people are mind-controlled or evil. Or
yeah, so they're either will, work to take the pumpkin off their head, or...
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like a short conversation. The party is attacked by villagers with jack-o'-lantern helmets, mind controls, who are... So what do? They first threaten the NPCs. First, they threaten the player characters and ask like, "Well, why have the pumpkin was not to your liking?" Right, something like that.
Something along those lines, yeah. And now another thing that, and again, I'm think I'm getting ahead of us a little bit, but I'm thinking about them now arriving at the Pumpkin Tavern, and there would be the issue of them saying, "No, you can't come in." But I think
the brewery.
I'm sorry, yeah, the brewery. But I think more interesting than that, and it would just kind of cut out the problem, is if, yeah, of course they can come for a brewery tour.
Oh yeah,
because touring breweries, one, is a thing, and two, I imagine the brewery tour is just a lot of them making them drink the pumpkin juice, which the pumpkin beer, which is going to kind of, continue to brainwash them, and then they'll insist that they drink it when the players, like if the players are hesitant to drink the pumpkin beer, like, no, it's part of the tour, you have to drink the pumpkin beer, of course, and are a little bit too pushy about it once they get there.
I dig that. I like that a lot. So I like the idea that when they're ambushed, maybe the actually, yeah. Um, cool. So we have that sort of first tie-in, the exposition NPC. Something's not right. Your NPC friend was found here. Go there. And now we're at the point where we need to start putting together the brewery. Get down to the right tab level for that.
Farfel saying, "I'm imagining that during this adventure, it's just always dusk with a nice pumpkin orange sky."
Oh, I think we should put that right up there, right at the top. Uh, pumpkin filled front Assassin's Street. Uh, arrive at dusk with a bright pumpkin orange. Not a bright, but like a deep pumpkin orange. You know, like a very vibrant. It's that dark, um, rich orange. Okay, I'll say rich. That's the better word. Big, radical. Uh, Julio. So now we're at the point where we can start putting on the brewery. But before we do that, Pete, do you want to take a quick break so you can kind of refresh our beverages?
Sure.
I think this is a good time as any. All right, we'll be right back then. We've got this kind of exploration segment figured out. When we get back, we're going to start putting together probably the beginning exploration of the brewery and our first combat encounter.
Yeah.
And then also the rest of the adventure. So we'll see you guys in like 5
Yeah,
minutes.
we'll be back shortly.
See you soon. We're
We're back.
back.
Jeremy, we were perfectly in sync for me.
I don't think we were.
I don't think we
Maybe.
were, but for me, we were. And that's what counts to me.
Well, I guess
No,
that's what matters to
that's not true. It
you.
counts to me more than if people know we're in sync. So where we left off, we were just kind of talking about getting into the brewery and starting to actually design maybe this like brewery tour idea that we were talking about, and just generally what the inside of this, what essentially is just a dungeon is going to be like.
So yeah, let's what does the outside of the brewery look like? So as players approach the brewery, what do they see?
Um,
Pumpkin Hill from the Sonic Adventure 2 Battle Farfel. That music is playing the entire time. That literally does not stop throughout the entire adventure. Just to clarify. I mean, you had that in your head as well, Pete, right? You were just thinking the Pumpkin Hill song from Sonic Adventure 2 Battle.
I have never played that game. Which I know that's one of those ones that people care about, but
We're
I've
done,
never
guys.
played. I've never played
DnDTime's
that
over
game.
forever.
I'm not a Sonic. I'm sorry, Shiba. I'm not a Sonic boy.
I'm kidding.
I like my boy. I like my boy Mario. Mario can beat up Sonic any day of the month. But before we go down that rabbit hole, uh, we're talking about the brewery. What does it look like? I mean, the first and most obvious option is it looks like a big pumpkin.
Hey everyone, welcome to Jeremy and Jeremy's D&D time. No, I'm just kidding. We'll go back to Bruce. Pete, you're still here, don't
I left because I thought I was all done.
Oh, well, never mind. We'll go back to Jeremy.
You changed the link. you son of a.
Anyway, back on track. What does this brewery look like?
Like I was saying, the most obvious choice is just a big pumpkin, but I don't know if that's what we want to do.
I think that's too on the nose.
I think if we want to work the kind of pumpkin vibe into it in some aspect, we could have it be just what a factory building looks like, but thick kind of green vines grow up all in around it. Pumpkin vines.
Beautiful. How do you describe a normal-looking brewery? Maybe like
I'm picturing
just
a long, flat building made of mostly stone. I'm picturing kind of brick, but I don't know if brick is necessarily.
We'll say stone brick.
Yeah, stone brick works.
It is heavily overgrown with thick green. Are pumpkin vines spiky? I know they have like a fuzz to them, right? Vines, and then maybe like a nature DC 15. They're fuzzy. Pumpkin vines.
Nature DC 15. Yeah, that works.
And they might not do it, right? They have to say, I want to go up and look at these vines.
Yeah.
And I like the idea. So one of the things that I hate, right, in a tangent here, when an adventure says it's a DC to figure out the thing, but it doesn't give you any idea as to how the character would figure it out.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree.
I like having it like, oh, the vines are kind of fuzzy. That's how you know they're pumpkin vines, because pumpkin vines tend to have a little bit of fuzz to them. And I like that. I think that's a cool, for those who design their own adventures, putting in those little hints and tips to your fellow dungeon masters, really important. Just good, especially if you have like a solid idea or concept as to why. Anywho, so we got a long flat building, primarily a stone brick. Does it have maybe like a smokestack?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Maybe
it makes it seem more kind of factory-like.
A few, maybe so. 2 tall smokestacks rise somewhere from its center, somewhere near its.
Plumes of orange smoke, maybe.
I don't know. I think we can kind of leave that up. Maybe it's got smoke, maybe it doesn't. I don't think we need to necessarily say it does. What do you think?
It's fine by me. I think it's
Yeah,
a small
I think it's fine.
detail.
Just leave it like that. It needs to be fairly tall with smokestacks. V Bunny's also saying orange smoke. All right, all right, all right. Center with plumes of tinted orange smoke.
I don't think it's bad to lean in a little bit like that because at this point, I think your players
Yeah, they
know that
picked up on it.
they know that they're here to do the big adventure.
What if it's just one smokestack and it's a somewhat crooked smokestack, almost like we're personifying
Like a pumpkin
stem?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's really cool.
So a single crooked smokestack arises from somewhere near the building's center. Like a pumpkin. Do we want to say like a pumpkin stem? I think almost like a.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we definitely don't want to say it. I feel like the DM doesn't want to say that and wants to leave
Yeah.
it for somebody to guess. But I mean, just to as a note
We'll
to
just
remember,
say.
yeah.
Okay. DM note. It kind of looks like a pumpkin's stem.
Yeah, it curves up and out a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Radical.
Manny Morgs is throwing out as a foreshadowing detail, just a kind of an unused outhouse. But like, aren't people working here? Like, why is this just the doors open and doesn't look like it's been used in a while?
Yeah, I don't think we need to tie in quite to that point right now. I think that might be a little deeper than we're getting at yet. But maybe not. I don't know. Let's see. Leave it up to interpretation. Good idea. Yeah, I'm with you, V-Bunny. We'll leave it up to interpretation. We'll give the DM note that it's supposed to look like a pumpkin stem, but saying it outright is a little too blunt. Cool. So where is the this factory? Is it on the outskirts of town?
I did, you said Pumpkin Hill, but I did picture it looming over the town, like casting a shadow on the town, literally and figuratively.
Upon okay, high upon a hill, casting a shadow over a melancholy village.
And I think just if I were to draw the scene, I imagine the shadow that it casts would look like a pumpkin with that smokestack in the building.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, that would be just a very evocative kind of picture. Although I don't think you can actually. I don't think there's any way to get that across to players without telling them
just it'd be
just
like in the TV show.
Yeah, for me, it's just a very nice mental image that I have.
Director's note. The building and smokestack look like cast a pumpkin-like shadow. Cast a jack-o'-lantern.
Oh, that's such a cool image. The
shadow.
orange kind of setting sun in the background with like the silhouette of the building. That sounds awesome.
Oh yeah, right. Maybe the windows glow orange. That's a really good one. The windows, brewery, glow orange with light, and the sound of workers. Oh, I'll just say going. Cool. Radical. So we've got the basic gist. There's not a lot around the brewery, and I think that's okay. At this point, they've done some exploring, some talking with NPCs. They've had maybe one quick combat. We didn't talk very much about that. Do we want to talk about that at all?
About the combat in the town?
Yeah, with the jack-o'-lantern helmeted dude.
I think it's just a villager stat block. Like, I don't think we need to.
Yeah, maybe like just standard bandit stat block.
Yep. I think the thing that we need to establish more than the standard bandit stat block is how the mind control thing works, and what that exactly how deep that is and where that goes because um, right now it's just kind of like a vague. I think we both understand how it works, but we
Yeah.
haven't said it explicitly. What did you have in mind for that journey?
My thought was it was a curse. Like a remove curse spell would do it. You wouldn't need a
Okay,
greater restoration, but a
so
remove curse.
taking off the pumpkin helmet wouldn't just instantly end the effect.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I see V Bunny saying, going back to this, why make this a combat? And maybe they aren't pumpkin headed in the town. If they're going to be like welcomed into the brewery, maybe. What do you think?
Um,
Because I'm getting into this kind of groove where we're at a point where there doesn't have to be combat here. They're going to be welcomed into the brewery, and I could see a party just kind of playing along and getting through like the entire adventure without fighting anything until then they're up against
the
the
pumpkin.
Pump King at the end, just kind of abruptly, you know?
Yeah, I personally that doesn't bother me. Well, I mean, we'll have encounters before the pumpkin in the brewery. I think because I don't know. For me, there's just kind of an implication that at some point during the brewery tour, as the villagers get a little bit too forceful with making them drink, that's when it starts to kind of turn and they start getting a little bit more aggressive. Um,
Well,
like
I know. I guess the question is, we've established NPCs, right? The villagers and the mind controlled characters that aren't attacking first, and that is always I find dicey depending on the party. And I think it's okay to have different experiences per different parties, but if we're never gonna have a moment where the party is attacked, you know what I mean? Because at
yeah,
this point, it's weird. There's something weird going on, but eh, it's just a little funky. You know what I mean?
yeah, I see what you're saying. Um, like I said, I don't know. I think you can get that moment where they are attacked in the
We're,
brewery.
okay, sure. So we'll uh,
Yeah, V Bunny is saying the same thing. Yeah, villagers are attacking first once they get into the brewery.
so we'll say they're beset upon.
As they enter, there's the bowl with the take one.
They threateningly address the PC. They say you're probably not really liking. How about you come with us uh, and check out the brewery? I'm sure you'll find something more to your taste. And I like the idea of like, wouldn't want anyone uh, to miss out, right, on the festivities, right? Something like that. As kind of like a twisted, like, no, we care about you. That's why you have to come with us to the brewery.
Yeah, agreed in that regard for sure.
And miss out on the best part of the season. I like that a lot. And then if combat ensues,
Yeah, and I think they can be very pushy about it.
yeah,
Um,
villagers will not take no.
yeah.
If combat ensues, use bandit step.
I'm unfamiliar with that piece, Matty Morris. We'll have to check it out. That's a good one to have kind of in the old kind of
In the back of your
musical
mind.
tool shed for a good industrial background.
Cool. So we've gotten the point they're here. They enter in. Um, maybe that there are a few of these pumpkin mask people there. Two pumpkin masked men or jack o' lantern helmet men. Uh, helmeted people stand guard. And they kind of they welcome the players in
Yeah, that works for me.
into the brewery for
Oh, great question from Farfel. Has the brewery been named? The answer is no, it has not.
Let's think of a name for the brewery.
Um,
I mean, they're not really guards, right? Stand,
well,
I think guards
they're
would have been close
employees, but
there.
they are employees in title, but probably guards
Yeah,
in
so
what they
like
actually are.
they are the brewery tour guides. Why not? Yeah, right. Tour guides, doormen, whatever.
We have the Speakeasy Brewery. We have Patches Pleasures,
Oh, I like Patches Pleasures. Actually, that sounds
Pumpkin
pretty
Hatch.
good.
We have the Pumpkin Patch Brewery. We have. I definitely like using the word patch in there. I definitely think
Hmm.
work well.
Pleasures just has a little bit too sexual a connotation.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, it feels so much
It's
like a
it
brothel.
sounds brothely to me. The
Because
pumpkin
every
brothel.
fantasy brothel is like someone's pleasure, whatever.
Just
Um,
the lusty Argonian pomp.
but I like the patch. Maybe we just call it the patch.
Yeah, why not?
If someone else, feel free to toss more names in there, guys. We're open to more ideas. This is just what we got. So brewery name.
Patches Spirits. There's one there. Patches Brewery.
Oh, patch of spirits name. And I like that one because it kind of
Jeremy, although in the past we're locked in on Gordon's, but Patches Pub would have been a very good one.
that's true. Damn, that would have been a great one.
Such good alliteration. You need that. High fantasy is nothing without its alliteration.
I really like the idea of using patch of spirits here though, because
Oh, it's a
spirits can
double.
tie into the
Yeah,
pumpkins
it's kind
too.
of a
Yeah,
double
I
meaning
think
there.
that
Yeah,
we
I
hit
like
the
that.
nail with that one. So we got Patches Pub or Patch. Whatever, Gordon's Pub, Patches Spirits.
It feels so good, doesn't it? Patches.
It does. That's fine. Whatever.
Oh no, I don't want to go back. I'm just saying it. Just it's great.
So they enter the brewery. They're in the brewery now. I think we're on to the next real phase. Upon entering brewery, where's the first thing they enter? Into the foyer, right, or the lobby?
Yep, the lobby. This is, I think, where the Take One Candy Bowl is. If we're gonna do that, this is the place for it. Or maybe things are still more reasonable here because the brewery isn't hostile to them yet. And I think it's weird if all of a sudden there's just a monster in the lobby.
Well, maybe the monster tracks them down later.
One of two things. I
like
think there's two good ways. I like the idea of one, they just encounter it a little bit farther ahead in the brewery, like in somebody's office or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, or two, they have some time when they're alone in the lobby with the Take One Candy Bowl, and when the people that are kind of in the lobby, we're gonna go set up the tour for you, and when they come back and the players describe how the candy bowl came alive and tried to consume them, they go, "What are you talking about?" Like they just pretend like nothing happened.
Yeah, I love that idea. And why'd you throw the candy bowl on the ground?
Just,
That's pretty good.
just I took a second piece of candy. Well, it said take one.
I mean, I also kind of like the idea that like they have the opportunity to take a piece of candy and the bowl doesn't immediately do it. Like maybe it tracks them down later. Might not be a bad. I don't know.
Matty Morg says batches of patches, which I love and would like to say instead, though, as a Slate amendment, patches batches.
Anyway,
I legitimately really like that. I'm putting it as an alternative, patches batches.
Okay. Yeah. Works either way.
Or
let's talk about this lobby still. The lobby is still very
Farfel. I like the idea when the candy bowl thing dies, the bowl and stool just fall over and look like a spilled bowl of candy. Yes, and for anyone who's not sure what we're talking about, we built monsters last week. We built the candy bowl creeper, which is a mimic-like monster disguised as a candy bowl that just pulls you into it if you take more than one.
Yep. So okay, so players are maybe like left alone for a few moments. Left alone by the guides, or if they defeated the guard outside, or if they killed the guards, it's empty. And there's what? A bowl of candy with a take one sign on a stool next to what like a desk, like a reception.
Yeah, there's like a reception. There's like a reception desk, or maybe it's like a bar, because I think a lot of
Oh
breweries,
yeah.
a lot of breweries do that, where their kind of front lobby desk is a bar where you can try the beers from the brewery.
I like that idea. Up on the left side of the room, several different a bowl, several different pumpkin themed drinks are on.
Yeah, it's all pumpkin beer.
Yep. The bowl is a candy bowl creeper. If the PCs fight it, I'm gonna just bold candy bowl creeper and kill it. It dies and looks like a simple bowl of candy and a knocked over, or not a simple spilled bowl. Cool. I dig that. I think it's a really cool. What else do we want in this in the lobby? Do we want any like imagery, any art that maybe would be foreshadowing? I was thinking maybe a pumpkin chandelier could be cool.
A pumpkin chandelier. Actually, let me throw this out as an idea, because right now the pumpkin is going to kind of come out of nowhere. I think if there's an intercom in the factory or something along those lines where you get to start hearing some of the things that the pumpkin fearless leader has to say to his employees, would be some kind of fun foreshadowing, and they get to like meet the person that's saying these things later on. So maybe something along those lines. Although,
okay, so that would be neat.
I guess that's not a very high fantasy thing. It's a very just kind of. I have a tendency to just put whatever I want wherever I want it.
Sure, I mean, whatever.
Things just work how you want them to work for the way that.
I mean, yeah, it's fine. I don't think it really matters. This is a fun Halloween adventure.
That's true.
You can say it is an arcane intercom, and it works.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be like an intercom system. It's just the voice is magically projected into the room.
Yeah. Okay.
Because then we get to start kind of building up our villain, which I think is really important in this kind of stuff.
So the voice is magically projected, and it seems to come from everywhere and nowhere.
Yeah.
And nowhere. It addresses. What does it address? It does not seem to address the players. To address the players when it speaks. And what does it say?
Before we work out the specific like words that it would be, what do we want it to kind of be? Do we want it to be a message promoting pumpkins, where it's just kind of a general like just a reminder about how great pumpkins are? Do we want it to be some kind of like instructions for employees to keep working and make sure they're putting out like the best products they can? Or is it sort of something along the lines of a more player directed thing where it's like, welcome to the brewery, established, like, I'm owner of brewery, welcome here, established years ago, it's a wonderful place, that kind of thing. Which of those sounds most appealing to you?
Ooh, I like a programmed illusion, right? That would like greet them.
And have it be kind of the owner. I think that could be very cool. Pumpkin blue ribbon.
I am
Peters?
Copernicus P. Pumpkin Patch, and I am the owner and proprietor of
Co-
this here brewery.
Was that off the dome, or were you thinking a little bit for Copernicus P. Pumpkin Patch? Because
That was off the dome.
That's very good, and
Yeah.
that is definitely his name.
A programmed illusion appears to greet the players
Pumpkin
upon
naturally in quotes because it's a nickname.
entering the brewery. And what does it look like? So, right, what does the pumpkin look? What does he look like? Looks like a nobleman wearing fine garb.
I definitely pictured a top hat and cane, and kind of like I definitely pictured kind of a Monopoly man kind of vibe that was very round in the middle.
Monopoly man vibe.
Definitely a big belly on Copernicus P. Pumpkin Patch.
Yep. Monopoly man vibe, but very round around the middle.
Matty Morgs is it has been blank days since our last blank. As a thing on the wall, I think that's a really fun thing to put in. So like the Planters peanut mascot, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of.
Programmed illusion. All right, it says,
I just didn't know that was what I was thinking of.
greetings and
salutations.
We're just going to note it speaks in a southernish accent. It speaks in a southern U.S. accent. What do you think about that?
I was basically picturing Oogie Boogie from I was basically picturing Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before Christmas. So I think the greetings and salutations, that kind of I picture a very big and wide kind of voice, but still the southern U.S. accent I think works well for it. Those two things, I don't know if they're mutually exclusive.
I don't think so at all.
Yeah.
Greetings and salutations, visit. I am Copernicus
P. Pumpkin Patch.
Pumpkin Patch.
We put pumpkin in quotes like it's his nickname.
Absolutely.
Copernicus Patch is such a great name that I'm going to use for a character that I make unrelated.
Proprietor of Patches Batches. That's way better. Patches Batches. It's just good. Get rid of the other one. Patches Spirits was good, but God,
it just feels so good to say.
The rhyme is
I
so
need
good.
rhymes.
Rhyme and alliteration are the two most powerful. Like P Pumpkin Patch.
Copernicus.
Boom.
It's the Pernicus too.
Copernicus P Pumpkin Patch.
And there's like a lot of the C's match up with the C's, and the Copernicus match up with the pumpkin. Copernicus pumpkin. Like,
yeah.
And then there's that P for separation, so it's not too unwieldy. Copernicus P Pumpkin Patch rolls so well off the tongue.
Thank you, Pete. And actually, I'm going to put those in single quotes because we're double quoting this whole thing. So, Patches Batch.
Ah, nice.
Welcome to the brewery. Be sure to try all of our, what do we want to call it?
Festive blends.
Oh, festive blends of pumpkin and pumpkin adjacent. Beverage. Foods and beverage. Do we want to say foods too?
Yeah, can't hurt.
Foods
what do you have for foods? We have the pumpkin fries.
Pumpkin seeds, pumpkin fries, pumpkin pie.
Just what else? Just the pumpkin fries. That's it. That's the only food we ever did. He got a little ambitious with foods and beverages.
Please enjoy your tour. Something like that.
Oh, I also like, just uh, as a note,
Oh,
be sure to try all of our autumnal ales from Matty Morgs.
I mean, we can just get rid of this stuff and just say that autumnal ales. That sounds way better. You can go ahead and make that revision.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Please enjoy your visit, and I look forward to seeing you at the end of the tour. Boom. I really like that.
I kept the word festive because I liked it. But
There's a foreshadowing right there. You're gonna meet Copernicus P. Pumpkin Patch. Bada boom.
and he's the vine human.
Oh, maybe he does say stay instead of visit.
I said
I messed that up, but that was a good one. End of the tour. Yeah, I like that.
all right, cool. So
I love it.
we have the candy bowl in the room. They go away and they have a chance to mess around with a candy bowl. We go through the tour. I think the tour is just, I don't know if we need to talk about what's in the tour. I think the only significant thing that happens in it is they see the inside of the factory. They go over
how
the
many
kind of usual
doors
things.
exit from this room?
I pictured just one. Leading
I
into
was
the
thinking at
factory
least
major.
2.
What are the 2 choices?
One is just a back storage room where all the booze is.
Oh, sure, yeah.
For the bar area. Exit, because I think it's important to have it feel a little rich, even if there are just the other 2 doors are both dead ends. I think having there be more in the building than just here's the one way you go, right? I think that's good.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah. So maybe 3 doors exit. I'll say 2. I'll make it. Exit the building, or exit the room. 1 to one beside the bar area, which has stored barrels of pumpkin ale. And 1 further into the, because I think that'll matter to a lot of people.
Matty Morgs is saying an emergency exit as well, which I think is just an easy add-on that works well.
I like that. I like that a lot. Because having these a couple other, it makes it feel like a real place.
Yeah,
and I think that's
agree
important.
for sure. I agree for sure.
One further into the factory, 1 labeled emergency exit only. Brick wall behind this door. I like the idea that the emergency exit's just bricked up.
Well, they have to open it to find out.
Yeah, exactly, but they'll never know.
Yeah.
Can only be told upon opening door. Or can only be known.
Warning alarm will sound. Just no alarm, brick wall.
Excellent. So, what do we have now? That was the lobby. Lobby's in a good spot, I think.
Yep.
Where are we at now? Where's the next?
We're talking kind of about the main factory floor. Yeah.
The factory proper, or factory floor rather. I think biggest one is iron gantries above. Massive iron vats. Iron, or do we want wood vats? I like that they can't just burn the whole place to the ground, You okay, bud?
Yeah, sorry, I was
You're zoning out a little.
Yeah, sorry.
Chat got you.
I was reading chat. Yeah, I definitely agree that they shouldn't be able to just burn. I mean, that's what the vats are usually made of, like, more than just. I mean, I don't think they're usually made of iron. I think they're made of, like, steels and. The big kegs are made of things like steels and aluminums and that kind of stuff.
So here's a thing, by the way, that Farfel mentioned in chat, and I really like. The ooze booze can be in the storage room by the tap back into their place. So if they've just going guns a blazing, exploring everything, they're gonna run into the ooze booze and everything. I like that.
I agree. I think the ooze booze is also potentially a weapon for an employee that has gotten fed up with the players and has realized that they're starting
Hmm.
to kind of push back against their plans.
So are there any employees in the factory floor, or is it just fucking empty?
I think there are definitely a lot of pumpkin masked individuals because
Okay.
that's kind of a thing that we've.
With ales, pumpkin helmeted employees work the facility, maybe like a half dozen, or maybe like a dozen scattered about. And of course, the guy giving the tour,
Yeah,
or
naturally.
yeah,
And again, I think the tour is just a very classical kind of brewery tour for anyone who's been on a brewery tour. They walk you around, they show you the equipment, they talk a little bit about how they make it. They have you rub some hops on your hands. I imagine here it's like pumpkin pulp that they're using instead of hops, um, as it's just all kind of fermented. It's like fermented pumpkins rather than fermented grains. Um, and then
guide explains how the uh, how our pumpkins are the greatest pumpkins in the world.
oh yeah,
Something just super
comments,
straightforward stuff like that.
something about the, how the farmers work and the, different techniques there. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff I think you can improvise on this tour just to make it
Yeah,
feel like a tour. But I think the key thing is, trying to get the players to drink the ale. And I think since we've established that the ale kind of has these a little bit of a brainwashing effect for it, um, what is that effect on the players if they're drinking this pumpkin ale? If they're drinking this pumpkin ale,
just saying. So I like the idea that it's like, stuff to improv is like farming technique, hard work, and Copernicus is secret recipes because we're trying to make something that other people can really use a little bit here.
yeah.
So I just want to put this stuff down there so I don't lose it. Because I've never been on a tour, so I don't know
Oh
what
yeah, I guess it's
a
a
brewery tour would be like. Uh, Make it special. Um, so yeah, I guess that is a question, right? What happens if the they drink from the stuff?
Well, I think a great idea is to. I think a great idea is to make it a little bit more on the obvious side because we're at this point we're kind of in it. We're in the thick of it, and I think having a PC, for one thing, just make a either a wisdom saving throw or a Constitution saving throw. But I think a wisdom saving throw is more interesting um, because that, for one thing, it tells the player that has to do it. One, like, oh yeah, this stuff has magic that's affecting me, and then when they fail, um, I don't think there's I don't think there's any even immediate effects. You just tell them how much they like the ale, and then I think at the
Okay,
end of the tour, something along the lines of, you know, you find yourself very interested if they have any employment opportunities here at the brewery. Something along those lines.
okay. I'm thinking of it like almost like a charm effect.
Yeah, like a charm effect.
Um, Regards brewery as maybe like as is like their
Exceptional,
future. Oh
exceptional.
yeah, exceptional. Wants to leave. No, it's weird, right? 'Cause how do you write that in like a way?
Um,
Uh, where does pumpkin wisdom come in? I don't know where pumpkin wisdom comes in, Farful. Uh, I don't know. I think that,
who's the old wise and peasant that passes on some folk wisdom? That sounds
honestly, Pete,
delightful. Yeah,
I think at this point, I would actually, I think we need to I need to put my foot down and say if this is the point where if they're still playing along through the tour, just drinking everything, there needs to be a immediate combat, something to force combat to happen. I think I think that needs to happen at this point. We need to like
yeah.
kind
I
of
mean, I
I
guess
mean,
my
even if it's just like you just say they have to roll a saving throw and they become dominated and want to and all they have to do in that is they have to want to get their allies to drink, right?
oh yeah, that works just as well, I think.
Right.
That's why I was saying, like,
Um,
making it an active thing, because like when a player makes a
yeah.
wisdom saving throw, it's like, oh well, this is fucking with me, and from a metagame standpoint, I don't like this, and they're going to start kind of treating that. I think most players would treat just drinking a thing that has an effect like that, regardless of what the effect is, as a hostile action.
Yeah, I think that's
Uh,
fair.
and and if you want to make it a direct like control thing, I think that's just as I think that's fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we can just continue to use charmed because I don't think they're necessarily going to attack their allies. I don't think we're at that, but uh, must act to try and get their allies to drink. So yeah, I hope this is the point where finally something starts to come up. Um, anybody was saying they like the dominate. I also kind of like the dominate. I like the dominate. I'm going. Barp, 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 barp.
Yeah, I think if the DM is just making the choices for their character, when the DM says, player X turns to player 3 and says, like,
Yeah,
that's a much more.
yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, right. And I think exactly, Maddie, a great point. That players expect a Constitution saving throw, but it is a Wisdom saving. It is expressly not a Constitution. I like that a lot. So cool. So at this point, where are we at? So combat ensues. Uh, combat ensues almost inevitably here, right? There's no way around this. If it doesn't, they lose, right? They become dominated all by the factor, and the adventure's over. If you tell one of the players, yeah, you drank the pumpkin juice and you're dominated and you want to make your friends do this, and other people in the party said, yeah, I drink it too. I think that's the end of the adventure
I
if
really
that
like
happens.
the. I really
I
like
think
the.
that's a lose condition here, right?
I really like the 4 weeks later moment where it's like you're all kind of sitting around in the pumpkin factory where you've been working and leading fulfilling lives. It's just like, and one of you just all of a sudden just, whoa, what have
Wait
we
a
been
minute,
doing?
whoa, what the? I
You
just
let them
snapped
break
out of
your
this.
friends. Just that sounds very fun, but
So, what monsters show up here? What kind of things do they find? They have the pumpkin headed guy. What else? Do we want to put a booze ooze in here?
um,
So
yeah, I think
12
if the Boozoos didn't come up already, I think that the um,
booze ooze.
I think that maybe the maybe as a last, I think as a last ditch drink, once people are getting kind of hostile, um, they might throw a one of the employees might throw a bottle of ooze booze at them, of boozoos, because boozoos can fit the shape of its container even if it's a tiny bottle. So that big ooze could just be inside of a glass bottle that shatters, and all of a sudden is a huge ooze that just shows up.
Yeah, okay.
Although that's a great point, Farfel. What level is this adventure? This is actually a very high level adventure, which I've kind
Is
of
it?
forgotten. Well, the Pumpkin is a monster.
That's hilarious. Right, I forgot the pumpkin is very strong.
Yeah, the Pumpkin is CR 15.
So really, these combat encounters are just slaughter. If we're using the bandit stat block, they're massacres.
I've completely forgotten how powerful our foe is.
I mean, the booze ooze was kind of decent CR, right?
The Boozoos was like 4 or 5, I think.
So maybe like 4 booze ooze come out of that. I like that.
Yep.
I like the idea that it's still 12 bandits. Right, they're just still there because they are just employees.
Yeah.
Um,
And maybe they have some move that they can use that makes them, like, we would give them some kind of pumpkin themed ability that makes them a little bit more of a threat.
hmm.
uh, just a slight upgrade to whatever the standard bandit stat block is.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because at this point, one of a couple things have happened. This adventure has so many diverging paths at this point. Because they've either just gone guns blazing into the adventure, and they've just been killing everything up until this point, or they have played along the whole time, right? And one of the players is dominated. So we have to consider that for the adventure, right?
Yeah.
If they're going in guns blazing, anyway, a bunch of boozoo. This is good here. I think 12 pumpkin-headed bandits. Well, they're all gonna die. But I think that's okay. Maybe they're warlocks of the Great Old One. We use that stat block from Volo's guide.
Oh, that's a big one.
Uh,
The Boozoos is a CR4. I was just looking at it now.
okay. And yeah, V-Bunny was saying, or Kraken Priests. I think the Great Old One Warlock has a little more. But yeah, I think we just
the
use a higher
is
level.
actually pretty nasty.
How strong is it?
Well, it's not about like the strength of it. It has an AOE with a 15-foot radius that poisons on hit.
Yeah, I think this is good. I think like a couple of Boozoos, so maybe like yeah, 3 to 4.
And that happens regardless of whether or not you make the save. They're just poisoned. So.
Oh shit.
Because the idea is anytime the Oozboos damages you, you become poisoned.
That's really good. So maybe like 3 Oozboos, 12. God, we don't need 12 Great Old Ones.
4 rounds, mind you. But
huh?
Just for a round, that is. But yeah,
that's still good.
Still very good. Yeah.
So the Great Old One Warlocks I just looked are CR6. So maybe we could put like maybe like 4 of those guys, maybe 5.
Yeah, I think that could work. And I guess it also depends on what spells they have, and you would maybe change around the spells a little bit to make them suit your particular needs.
They have what? Eldritch Blast, Arms of Hadar, Crown of Madness. They got some good spells, actually.
Yeah,
they got some really, really good spells. Yeah, I think maybe we even bump those down to 3, because they actually got some good health to them. And then 7, what's like a moderately low CR enemy that can still be kind of that could be a good humanoid. I'm trying to think of one.
Well, what you could do is have those bandits still, but then have maybe 2 of the warlocks and do 2 different ones. Do like a fiend and an old one as like the floor managers.
Oh, I like that idea.
And then if you just want something else to throw in this counter to beef it up, maybe there is some kind of animated piece of factory equipment that is also a threat.
See, I see. V-Bunny is recommending the Kraken Priest. That's not a bad idea either. Oh, I like the animated factory too, though. So maybe, yeah, I like the idea. Maybe we do 1 of this Great Old One, and then we'll put in 1 Warlock of the Fiend, because I think that's threatening. A couple of Boozoos. So we got 10 bandits. They're not actually threats.
They're just there.
They're just innocent people. And that's kind of floor manager. I like that idea.
The tour guide and the floor manager are both kind of tough guys, maybe. Is the idea.
Yeah. I like that a lot. And is that a good enough threat? Maybe the Oozboos can exclude poisoning allies. I think that's a cool idea.
I see. Like, I picture the Hellfire engine from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes as being a perfect thing if it weren't CR16, if it was just like scaled down a little lower. But that like type of enemy seems really right for a piece of animated factory equipment.
Well, I mean, a lot of things are, right? Like, I'm thinking if we really wanted this to be terrifying, we could go with like
a Marut.
that
was one of my jokes, everyone, that I'm so known for.
Right. what's that creature? Isn't there something that's like a keg, kind of, from the Stone Defender? I think
That's a Tomophos thing. Yeah, okay.
not
That's
a bad idea.
yeah. It's got the big kind of like shield arms.
Yeah. So
That's a
it's two
CR4.
X Stone Defenders from factory. So I like this idea. We got a cool. Oh damn! An Eidolon's not a bad idea either. But that's a little. We're getting a little out here, out of whack. I think because we got a bunch of enemies here. It's going to be a pretty hard fight to run. We don't want to get it
Yeah,
too convoluted. Um, I think we're good calling it here.
agreed. I think that's a good spot.
So we have a pretty good fight. I think that'll work out. And maybe there needs to be a little bit more or less. The bright side is a lot of AOE that does half damage. So that will help to make up for the fact that these are lower CR guys, and they're
Yeah.
um
That ooze booze poison is
yeah. Oh, that's
ridiculous.
pretty meaningful.
And I would
I think.
probably just I would probably combine the ooze booze in effect alongside of the stone defenders, because I would kind of imagine that the stone defender is the big vat of ooze booze, and the vat pours itself
Mm,
out, and the ooze booze comes out, and then the vat is still a monster, but implying that they're kind of one thing, even though they're different stat blocks.
yeah, I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. Cool. So we have the factory floor. Shit's hit the fan. What is beyond the factory? I think that's where we're at now. Uh,
Um, so there's the factory floor. I imagine that there's kind of an upstairs, and some of
yeah,
the
that iron gantry kind of deal.
exactly what I was picturing, and then Cornelius P. Pumpkin Patch's office is upstairs, I would imagine.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Up on the iron gantry, there is a single door to Cornelius P. Pumpkin Patch office, labeled. What's it labeled? Mr. Patch. I don't know.
MP. Yo, MP. Yeah, Mr. Patch is fine. I think it's just, I think even just Cornelius P. Pumpkin Patch.
Yeah. Okay. Labeled.
Um, Maddie Morgan saying scarecrows could be very neat. Um, I agree. That might be something that we put in with the big bad.
Yeah. Well, I think so. Yeah. I think definitely. Um, and I guess the idea, right? So here's the real catch: we have a giant pumpkin whose whole shtick as the big bad is that it blends in with just pumpkin patch. So how do we fit
We
a
haven't
huge
built.
pumpkin patch into a brewery? And I think the answer is upon opening the door, uh, it's a portal.
I see. I like there being one more layer of artifice behind the door, where it's like a
Okay,
regular artifice, and then the portal is somewhere in the office.
sure, that would work too. The door, PCs find an office, and what's in the office?
Well, probably whatever the Cornelius P. Pumpkin Patch surrogate is, which is running on some kind of autopilot, like thinking that they're at the end of the tour and meeting them. Because they said they were going to be met by Cornelius P. Pumpkin Patch at the beginning of the tour.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I'm a little the way that we've kind of designed it, where shit hits the fan in the tour, and like it's going to do that because that's just how the adventure, right? Um, well, I guess how do we want to describe Cornelius Duplantis? Yeah, is it like a fine office, or is it like a just a empty kind of barren simple office?
Uh, I think both could work. Shiva says, just have an animatronic. Uh, That could be funny.
So, do we find him? Do we find it like an animatronic him? Do we find a suit controlled by vines, or do we just see an empty suit lying upon the ground?
Um, I liked the I personally was just a big fan of the suit controlled by vines. I really loved that one, but
Sure, and maybe the vines kind of lead back into this other.
Farfel saying is Cornelius just a vine blight at this point? That's interesting.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Uh,
Um,
and we'll say like a tangled mass of vines. A vine stands hunched behind a a weathered oaken desk, dressed in a once fine
and he's got the same kind of pumpkin hat on,
with a
so you
top
can't see
hat.
the face just yet.
Uh, oh, okay. So I was just saying a tangled mass of vines. I was saying it would be very obvious.
Oh, I figured you'd take off the pumpkin mask because he's just going to talk to them like they're not, really there. Just kind of giving because I think there could be a fun moment where they take off the pumpkin hat and he's just a big pile of vines. Um, yeah, I think if you just go with the tangled mass of vines.
Yeah, I'm just figuring. I
I
don't know.
understand. I understand your worry on that one. Yeah, just go with the
It's a
tangled
little
mass of
weird
vines.
because I think it's obvious at this point. Like, the players get it.
Oh yeah,
Usually.
they get it. I just think that the act of like going up and unmasking the thing would be fun. Was my thought, but it works.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be in there. So if you're worried about it, just skip it.
Uh, so what is there like a thin tangle of vines? Uh, tangle of vines kind of hangs out behind it, going through something. I mean, we need to tie this a demi-plane into this, because that's
Yeah.
where the players have to battle the Pumpkin and the Pumplings.
If we
So
make
far, the adventure we intended to design to highlight the Pumpkin and the Pumplings, we're 10 minutes over time and we haven't put any of those in there.
um, well, I think the end is very easy because we already
Yeah,
know kind of who the
we already have built that encounter with building those two monsters.
yeah.
But
Um, so I don't know. Maybe the office is a little bit more kind of ornate, and they just literally follow a trail of vines from out of the back of his coattails, and it kind of curls up into just something in the office. Maybe it curls up into something in the office, which leads them to another thing in the office, which leads them to another thing in the office, as just kind of like a fun follow the line, and also showing that he's all up in the place. And then
yeah, I
maybe
mean,
there's just a closet on the side of the room that's a demiplane. Wardrobe, Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe style.
so V-Bunny was asking, why does it have to be a demi-plane? And I think the answer is we want to take advantage of I think the spooky, like, overgrown pumpkin patch kind of deal is kind of a I mean, I want that for this adventure at this point with the pumpkin, right? I think that's super fitting. At least that makes sense to me.
Yeah,
Yeah, like with scarecrows and the huge pumpkin patch. And I don't want to have that just out there in the town, because if it is, the players could just skip the whole brewery, which is the whole adventure. You know what I mean? It'd be a little weird. Uh, but yeah,
yeah, and I think that was the
if
concern on that one. And
if we
maybe
weren't going to
you could
use
figure
the
out a way.
brewery, that'd be fine.
Maybe you could figure out a way to make both work. Um,
Yeah, I'm sure you could.
so it's
Vines.
just a question. And if that's the way you would want to do it, then yeah, absolutely. Just make it a big patch behind the factory. I think that would also be very good.
The husk of a creature.
V Buddy's the
Leading
question: why would they
to
want to skip the brewery? I agree, but there are a lot of actually. I think there's a lot of players out there who would love to just kind of like find the trick of the adventure. Um, yeah. Anyway, I definitely see what you're saying, and I think it would work both ways. But either way, I think it amounts to kind of the same thing in terms of how one would what the end of the adventure is going to be, because either it's in the demi plane or it's just in the fields behind the factory, which, you know.
It just feels anticlimactic to me, but that's just my. Uh, yeah. So the thin tangle of vines either leads to a demi-plane containing an ancient pumpkin realm, or a fire escape. Whatever.
When you put it that way.
You can do it either way. One of those seems a lot more dramatic to me, but maybe you're going goofy. I mean, it's a goofy adventure, so it can go either way. Whatever works best for you at your table. That's what we're all about here.
And then honestly, I think the final encounter is, I mean, you roll into the pumpkin patch and there's the pumpkin.
Yeah, I mean, basically.
It's just like how do you build up that drama for that final moment? And I mean, I would do that with kind of describing lighting. If I think there's kind of two ways the players go on this one. They see the big pumpkin alone in the field, and they either decide to just try and shoot it from a distance and troll it, or they walk up to it and think that maybe the guy's inside of the pumpkin, and they don't think it's the actual pumpkin itself.
Yeah, exactly what Farful's saying here. If you're seeing a bunch of vines and everything's about pumpkins, and people are leading you to a brewery that has a gargantuan pumpkin behind it, the first thing you're going to do is go look at it. It just makes sense. Like, us building the adventure, we know that most of the adventure is going through the factory. But as players, they don't necessarily know that. And I'm in complete agreement with Farful here. Now, if your players don't try and do that at all, it can always be like at the very end, oh yeah, by the way, there was an ancient pumpkin patch with a gargantuan pumpkin right behind the factory that you just didn't notice. But, it can go either way. Yeah, I like this demi-plane at least as a fallback, even if you wanted to do the material plane. So anyway, let's talk about this pumpkin patch, right? Massive pumpkin in the distance. It's the pumpkin.
I do like the idea of this fighting. She was saying if they came in at dusk with the orange sky, it's night by now. I do like the idea of this fight at night because then the pumpkin has that real jack-o'-lantern vibe where it's just the lights and the darkness of the pumpkin's eyes.
I like this idea. So maybe like small jack-o'-lanterns. Lanterns guide a path through the darkness. So I think the first thing we say is it's night, right?
Yeah.
It is night, no moon visible in this realm of twisting vines and orange gourds. Small jack-o'-lanterns guide or flank a path through the patch with little to be seen beyond their toothy grin. I like the idea that they can't just attack the pumpkin in the distance because they don't see it at first, right? So they're following a twisting path, the grinning jack-o'-lantern faces of the pumplings looking down upon them. PCs enter into something of a clearing. Massive pumpkin sits upon this in the center. It's the pumpkin. And imagine it's facing away from them. Right? And it just kind of turns toward them and the bright light shines over them. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I think so too. Stars nodding and nut.
Yeah. Suddenly, the massive pumpkin
rotates, just kind of turns around.
Shifts, lifting up upon its vines, and turns, sees a bright fire visible within. within casting a
Well, it
kind
would
of
be
what adjective do we want?
wicked.
Oh yes, there we go. A wicked orange light upon, and I think that's kind of our idea here, right? That's
And
our
then
basic.
we're in the fight.
And maybe the clearing is surrounded by clearing, surrounded by scarecrows.
Yep, clearing surrounded by scarecrows. There's probably some kind of shifting movement in the distance as the little pumplings are kind of shuffling around on the outskirts of the.
Yeah, right. Uh, distant. Oh, Pete, you're tiny for some reason. Skype is being funky.
I'm just
At
a
least
little
you didn't.
guy.
At least it didn't quit you out this time.
I'm just a little guy.
Pete's
Yeah.
just a small. He's a real boy, Pete. Now, Pete, now you're huge.
I am Pete.
No, you're regular Pete again.
I'm Pete.
Different shifting and shuffling can be heard in the patch beyond the path. So I like that idea, right? As they're kind of going into this place, they can't just immediately attack the pumpkin because they can't see. It's black out, which even with your dark vision, you're limited to 60 feet of range, so you can't see shit, Captain.
Agreed.
I like this. I like this a lot. I think this is going to be a dramatic, cool kind of.
And then
finale.
from there, they fight the pumpkin. They win. They lose.
We gotta. No, they lose because the pumpkin's OP.
Yeah, well, the pumpkin defeats them naturally. But if the pumpkin, if the pumpkin doesn't defeat them, the pumplings do.
Yeah, so maybe like as a layer action, the pumpkin can
Summon pumplings, and he probably summons like a DX pumplings.
4d6 pumplings.
Oh God, Jeremy!
What? CR15. It could be 24 pumplings. Maybe 2d6 pumplings.
Well, yeah. Well, think of it this way: because if it's 2d6 pumplings, then that's on average 7 pumplings, which means that that's on average 21d6 of fire damage, or half as much of a successful save.
Yeah, but the players can kill the pumplings.
Oh yeah. But
anyway,
when they die, they still blow up, Jeremy.
And maybe like 1d4 scarecrows. So they can still summon the scarecrows. And then what's a third layer action? I like a difficult terrain, right?
Yeah, the vines shift.
Vines shift. And what does that do? Just cause difficult terrain or something else?
I think maybe the terrain kind of shifts, so maybe they can move a player to somewhere else.
Ooh.
They can.
All PCs must succeed on a strength or deck. I think deck, right? Because we have strength saves on the pumpkin's abilities. I don't want to just go all
Yeah, okay.
on that.
In that case, dex or be
or be
pushed.
Moved
or moved into a particular
up to 30 feet.
Yeah,
that's really good. That's very strong. There we go. We got 3 cool layer actions. I like these layer actions a lot. Especially stuff I noticed that spellcasters can actually tend to feel really shitty in these single boss battles if they don't have like disintegrate or something, a very specific high level I just do damage spells. Because they're all AoE and the pumpkin's immune to fire. So, fireball, the quintessential AoE, is out of the question. Being able to summon lots of little dudes gives those spellcasters something really meaningful to do, even if they didn't happen to pick the single target damaging I kill this thing ability.
Your shatter shines in this fight for sure.
Absolutely. Shatter dominates here. Even fireball will kill the pumpling, even though they're resistant to fire. They got 4 HP.
True.
Like, pumplings don't got lots of health. But yeah, shatter would absolutely crush them. Hey, sleepyhead Pete.
I'm sorry, I'm gone right now.
That pumpkin head got really get to you.
Maybe that's what it was.
I'm feeling delightful. But yeah, I think that's really about it. I actually really like this a lot.
I do
Do
too.
we want to? I don't think I'm gonna have time to like write up a full adventure for this, but you know what? You put the boozers at the bottom. Thanks, Pete.
I threw them in there.
Awesome. That way we got them.
Threw them
I
in
think
there,
what we'll
not him.
do is, even though it's in kind of draft, sketchy form, we'll post this in the DnDTime Discord channel. This document for everyone to, look at. And if you
Peruse.
want to run this, let us know. I'd be super interested in hearing
Absolutely.
how it goes. Or hell, you don't have to run this. You can rip any part of this to use. That's one of the wonders of being a dungeon master, is you can just pick and choose what little parts you like. Even if you just disregard the whole adventure and just use the Pumpkin or the Pumplings, dude, the Pumplings are a night. Waves of
Oh,
Pumplings are just the most terrifying thing in the world.
pumplings are definitely a threat. No two ways about that.
What if we say 3d4 Pumplings?
Fine by me.
I
It's more consistent.
like a lot of Pumplings.
It's more consistent that way.
I just feel like if it were 2 Pumplings, it'd just be a sad. Anyway, that's about it for us tonight, folks. Thank you all for hanging out and for all your awesome ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, pretty radical. I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
think
there's
it's pretty cool.
not too much more to say.
I look forward to running the Pumpkin sometime.
I do as well. And maybe these numbers might need to be changed a little bit. Maybe these should be D6s. Maybe those should be like a D8. I don't know. These are kind of things that we can, look at in more detail. Or you can play by ear based on how your party's doing. The first encounter absolutely wrecked your party. Well, maybe they summon less pumplings and scarecrows. Or maybe just don't do any layering. And yeah.
So I think that's gonna just about kind of do it for us. Announcements, or I guess not announcements, but just like mentioning our other shows. If you enjoy DnDTime Brews, you should tune into the other things that we do, which are miscellaneous, and there are many of them. You can tune in Wednesday for DnDTime Talks, where this week we have not quite fallen on a topic yet, but we will let you know as soon as we know when we
Couple
post our
ideas
announcement.
bouncing around.
Yes.
And we'll announce it tomorrow.
And then naturally tune in Friday for Pete and Jeremy's D&D time, where it is the conclusion, the dramatic conclusion of our Halloween event, which I know Jeremy and I are both really excited to get to run. I think it's going to be an absolute blast, and we're going to be getting we're going to be getting so many people in that want to play. So if you have ever been interested in joining D&D time, everyone's going to get in that wants a chance to do so on that day. So come play some D&D with we.
Absolutely. Thank you all for hanging out, for being part of this awesome community. And we hope to see you Tuesday for DnDTime Worlds.
Yes, actually. I'm going to do a makeup DnDTime Worlds on Tuesday.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know it was a makeup one. Right, it would have been. No, I didn't mean to throw you on the spot, but awesome that you're doing it.
Yeah, I am going to do that. I forgot to say it. I actually meant to.
Alrighty. Well, I am Jeremy.
And I am Pete. And this
is DnDTime Brews.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.